Good morning. This is the second part for your 6 weeks assessment. If you have clicked this link, that means that you must have read Heat this 6 weeks. So if we will look at this, you have 18 multiple choice questions, all about Heat and the characters within it. Then you have 5 who said it questions, where you'll be given a quote and you need to identify who it was in the story that said those words. Okay. The following questions are from the novel you have read this 6 weeks during your SSR time. Read each question carefully and select the best choice. Be sure to record your answer on your answer document if you are in class. Number 1, how does the novel open? A, Carlos is getting fired from his job bussing tables at Hector's. B, Michael sees Ellie for the first time as he is pitching to Manny. C, Mrs. Cora is walking home and gets her purse stolen. D, the guidance counselor pulls Michael out of class, telling him his father died. Number 2, what baseball player does Michael idolize? A, El Grande. B, Keith Wright. C, Orlando Gaza. D, Joe Johnson. Number 3, what trait or characteristic of Manny's does Michael always tease him about? A, his outfits. B, his perfect hair. C, how hard he studies. D, how much he talks. Number 4, how fast does Manny insist that Michael often pitches? A, 70 miles per hour. B, 80 miles per hour. C, 90 miles per hour. D, 100 miles per hour. Number 5, how did Poppy die? A, he had a sudden heart attack after a work incident. B, he was electrocuted when he accidentally tampered with a live wire. C, he was shot by someone in the neighborhood. D, he had been sick with a rare genetic disease for a long time. Number 6, why was Mr. Lima waiting at the apartment building when Michael came home one day? A, he was investigating a complaint by Mr. Gibbs of potential child neglect. B, he was trying to see Michael's father so that he could inquire about the birth certificate. C, he wanted to take photos of Michael with Mr. Amorosa, the Bronx Borough president. D, he was coming to ask Michael if he would consider forfeiting his position for the season. Number 7, how did Mrs. Cora arrange for Poppy's death to be secret? A, she lied and said he had died on the way from Cuba. B, she begged the priest that arrived not to say anything. C, she intentionally messed up his social security number in the report. D, she pretended that he was her undocumented brother from Cuba. Number 8, how does Mrs. Cora often make Carlos and Michael feel better? A, she cooks for them. B, she practices baseball with them. C, she tells them stories about Cuba. D, she takes them to buy milkshakes. Question number 9. How does Carlos completely surprise Michael one night during a Yankees game? A, he brings tickets to his team practice for him and Manny. B, he nearly gets arrested for scalping tickets. C, he asks their aunt from Cuba to come watch. D, he loses his temper and punches Mr. Gibbs in the nose. Number 10, how does Mr. Minaya make Michael feel part of the game when he couldn't play? A, he asks him to be team manager. B, he asks him to be batting coach. C, he asks him to be pitching coach. D, he asks him to be third base coach. Number 11, why does Ellie's dad finally turn to Michael in the crowd of people trying to get his attention? A, he hears Michael recite part of a Cuban children's song that he and Ellie both loved. B, He hears Michael reading aloud the letter that he had written to his daughter. C. He sees the sign that Michael held up saying, "I'm the boy who hurt your daughter." D. He hears Michael singing Feliz Navidad loudly and obnoxiously. Number 12. How does Uncle Timo surprise Michael when they meet with Mr. Gibbs? A. He tells the truth about Poppy's death to Mr. Gibbs. B. He loses all of his casual street talk and speaks just like Poppy. C. He brings along Mrs. Cora and pretends that she is his wife. D. He lies to Mr. Gibbs about Michael's citizenship documentation. Number 13. Who takes legal custody of the boys in the end? A. Mr. Minaya. B. Mrs. Cora. C. Mr. Gibbs. D. Uncle Timo. Number 14. What word best describes Manny? A. Strong. B. Smart. C. Determined. D. Loyal. Number 15. How does Michael finally get his birth certificate? A. Carlos flies to Miami to meet a man from Cuba who brought it. B. Mr. Minaya calls in a favor from a family friend. C. Ellie's dad uses his contacts in Cuba to get a copy. D. Mr. Gibbs makes contact with someone in the Cuban government. Number 16. How do Carlos and Michael explain their father's disappearance? A. They say he is in Florida taking care of his dying brother. B. They say he had to return to Cuba to help his mother. C. They say he has a big job contract in Arizona. D. They say he works over 15 hours a day. Number 17. What is Manny's nickname for Michael? A. Star. B. Junior. C. Mickey. D. Lightning. Question 18. How does the novel end? A. Michael's team is winning the pre-championship game. B. Michael is pitching inside Yankee Stadium for the championship game. C. Michael is walking up to Ellie's house to see if she wants to play ball. D. Michael is helping Carlos interview for a job with the Yankees. Okay. All right, the next 5 questions, I will be giving you a quote from within the book, and you will need to identify which person said that quote. Okay. Number 19. We are so grateful that an official person like yourself took such an interest in our family, even if it has not been as much of a family lately. This is how we hoped America would work, people caring for other people in such a way as this. Who said that? A. Carlos. B. Mrs. Cora. C. Uncle Timo. D. Poppy. Number 20. If I even get a whiff that 2 young kids may be living without a parent, no matter how well they think they're doing, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't check it out. Who said this? A. Mr. Minaya. B. Justin's father. C. Mr. Lima. D. Mr. Gibbs. Number 21. Shouldn't you be warming up by now? Oh, my bad. I forgot. You're too old to pitch in this league. Who said that? A. Justin. B. Bobby. C. Maria. D. Ramon. Number 22. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. Do you tell everybody all of your secrets? Who said this? A. Manny. B. Ellie. C, Kelvin, D, Michael. Number 23, you've got enough crummy stuff going on in your life. They won't even let you play right now. But Ellie isn't part of that. Ellie is a good thing, a good problem to have. Okay, who said this? A, Carlos, B, Mrs. Cora, C, Ramon, D, Manny. Okay. Make sure when you finish that you have all of your answers recorded on the answer document on the front of your test if you're an in-class learner. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Also, if you need to go back and view or listen to the video recording for the reading passage at the beginning of the test, by all means, you may certainly do that. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know.